Okay, let's actually officially get this thing started now. How about that?
Official start 8:04.
Okay, well, it's 6:04 here, but whatever.
You hush.
It's
I
8:04
guess
here.
we'll start by everybody in the chat introducing themselves.
Please, let's all not rush at once.
And then dead silence.
Yeah.
All right, you bunch of fuzzbutts. I'm Torch. I do the security and legal genre. I'm also one of the old farts here, so yeah, that's me. Have a good day.
I'm Sonar. I primarily work with a lot of the behind-the-scenes stuff, working on the website, and yeah.
Woo!
Yay.
Okay, I'm Voodoo. I basically work at answering questions, approving posts, and yeah, that's pretty much me.
Okay, and I am Tempo. I do moderator stuff. I approve posts on Facebook, and I handle the Twitters.
Hi, I'm Whisper. I do approve posts, answer questions, and chats, and yeah.
All right, yay.
Yay, go us.
We're people, yay.
Or are we dragons?
We dragons that walk around with carpets on our butts.
Most expensive carpet you'll ever wear.
Best carpet you'll ever wear.
Only carpet
True.
I'll ever wear.
Stinky.
Yeah, I don't think shag looks good on me. All right, you got this, Sonar. You're leading.
Oh boy, no, I don't want to. Okay, so we are here.
You agreed to this.
I mean, so we are here to answer some questions that have been given to us by members of the community, or potentially those that are not in the community but maybe want to potentially create a character or get involved with the species. And we have a limited knowledge of some things that we could share about the species, depending on whether or not Eno/D/telephone has given this information to us and or has allowed us to share some things publicly. So we will try our best with just the 5 of us here. This is like about half the team.
Yeah, pretty much half the team. I
Say
think
again?
that
How was you understand?
Fenway, or not Fenway, I don't know what she's going by, but her mic is not working right now.
Well, maybe
Whose mic's not working?
That would be Brett's. She may or may not end up being up on the chat, though.
Yeah, Brett.
Alright, so yeah, this is, I mean, fairly informal, and we had just difficulty after technical issue after one after the other, just all day long trying to get this thing set up.
We had people who were
trying
sick,
to get this set up, yeah. It's been fun. But we
I
are...
remember Brett went by Sahara now.
Oh, okay.
That's Brett's name, Dutchie.
She's still gonna be Brett.
Yeah.
Whoever has their thing on, I heard myself on your.
That may happen if somebody is talking at the same time as you and they don't have headphones on.
Oops.
I think it should be okay. Again, this is not like, the most organized thing ever.
We're
Okay.
doing our best.
I know. So, let's read the first question then.
Mail time!
This one is submitted by Kristen. She asks, I would like to know more about the lore on the dimensions in the Dutch Angel Dragon universe. So I have a theory, and I would love for you guys to discuss it if you are allowed. So I have a theory that magical energy flows through all the dimensions, but is sucked into the abyss over time. Hence why I think that the plane of Terra is closer to the abyss and lacks a lot of magical energy. But I also theorize that the abyss cannot contain all of its chaotic energy, so it periodically spits it out. Similar to how there are abyssal holes that drain magic from the aether, I bet there are pockets where it spews out. I can also imagine that Paradise's existence takes that chaotic energy, reconfigures it to control the magical energy, uses the excess and is put back into the aether plane. Now, I know this is all theory and speculation, but I want to know what you guys think. It's obvious the Dutch Angel Dragon universe is filled with these polar opposites of magical energy that govern the universe, which also makes sense why Dutch Angel Dragons are so magical sensitive and easily corruptible, since they are mostly made of magic.
Yeah, my ears just started smoking, my eyes crossed. But yeah, good question. I think the only one... I can't even come up with words right now.
Yeah, so there is definitely a lot of things having to do with the actual world and lore and universe that this is made up of, that a lot of it has not been very clearly defined yet, and that's clearly why this question is being asked.
I feel like there's not a lot we can say that we're allowed to say.
It sounded like it would be a really good and in-depth conversation between, like, if we, like, did a panel at a con to just go over, like, maybe some questions with Dee herself. That really sounds like it a little bit better, unless, Sonar, you have some knowledge that she's passed to you that we're not
No, I mean, not especially. But I will say that I personally like the idea and suggestions of the way that magic and energy are interacting with the different sections, if you will, of what makes up this universe. And this is definitely something that we could be kind of brought to Dee's attention. Is, oh my god, I swear that this thing keeps cutting out. I'm sorry. I'm holding the button down.
Yeah, it keeps cutting out on you.
I hope it didn't cut out while I was reading the question. I didn't pay attention since I was busy reading.
No, it didn't cut out while you were reading.
Well, that's
the question.
good.
We heard the whole thing.
Okay, so yeah, I feel like this is something that you definitely want to bring to Dee's attention and maybe kind of give her some food for thought on. Because the way that the interactions between all the different planes of existence have changed over time since they were first proposed. And, I mean, that was, man, back in like 2015 or something when we were first like relaunching the group page again to make it public. And I believe a lot of the initial ideas were credited to Ping for coming up with some of the way that the world was structured and proposed to Dee. But I do not know what things she's officially adapted and what things have been changed or whatnot. Because there is instances where the different planes of existence will kind of come in contact with another, or that the veil between the worlds is weakened or thinned, and that this may be due to magical energy occurrences that are happening in this particular area. Because if you're not familiar with the way that the world is sort of structured, you have Terra, which is the plane of existence that we as humans in the real world see and interact with and live on. And then you have the magical dimensions that are sort of intertwined with it. You have Aether, which is the realm of where the Dutch Angel Dragons and magical creatures exist. And it's effectively like a mirrored world. It's the exact same almost as, well, what we experience, but that it's populated with all these magical creatures that, because they live on a higher plane of magical energy, we cannot see them on this lower magical dimension, if you will. But the worlds will sort of interact with one another. So the idea that there's like these pockets of energy that can be transferred through, the places where the veil is like thinner between the worlds is a lot of times where you might see more magical activity or glimpses of magical creatures or something from the world of Aether kind of bleeding into the world of Terra. So I could see this system that Kristen's sort of proposing working pretty well alongside the Dutch Angel Dragon lore. But whether or not it could be something that could be considered officially canon, that would just absolutely have to be up to Dee. And a lot of these things, I do not believe she has really finalized yet, because a lot of it is kind of just not needing to be very well written out, descripted, and understood in order for her basic story to kind of work, until there comes a point where an event in the story is directly impacted by the rules, if you will, of the universe. And I do not know if those have been all outlined yet. Obviously, she wants to write this as a book, so you don't want to spoil the events and the story and the ending of the book until it's been officially released. Once that happens, there will be a lot more of the lore, canon lore, descriptions and explanations and things will be lined out and more easy to understand. But a lot of what's kind of happened in building the Jet Changer Dragon world is things like people submitting ideas and suggestions. Maybe they invented something for their own personal backstories for their characters, and then later it may end up becoming part of the canon story. Just because you're like, oh, I never thought about that before. And it kind of has this idea of the collaborative story that we've sort of talked about before. And so ideas like this are really cool to suggest, and especially because it's difficult to think about all the different aspects of how a world works if you're just one person kind of thinking about this and you don't have feedback from others. So I think that's something I really appreciate about the Dutch and Dragon community, is how creative everybody is, trying to fill in the blanks until more information has been released. And that's all I can say about that.
Well, as you were talking, I had part of the things that you were saying put me in mind of like the ethereal plane, which is often found in various settings like the Dungeons and Dragons, where they have this ethereal plane that lays overlaced over our current plane, and it interlaps in certain places. So it put me in sort of that sort of thought.
Oh yeah, the concept of like the Aether. I mean, clearly from its name, the Aether, it was specifically meant to derive inspiration from things like Dungeons and Dragons. I believe that's actually where Ping got the original idea from. When he named it Aether, I mean, he was the one who coined that term.
I think it's just a plainier sandwich.
Yeah.
You get the Terra, then you got the Aether, then you have the Abyss and the Paradise on top and bottom. You have a sandwich.
Yummy.
Pretty much. And so the idea that sort of Aether is sort of like on the bottom rung, if you will, of the planes. It's technically a place that's really is full of like this magical energy, but I do like the idea that it's kind of drawing all of this energy, because we've always kind of associated it with the idea of negative energy, which is giving you like negative emotions, anger, fear, and things like that. That's very darkened. It's kind of the opposite of a positive energy, and both in the terms of like, you know, the actual scientific understanding of positive energy, charged energy, but also in the emotional sense. It's kind of combines those sort of concepts together. So the idea that things are like magnetized or drawn to that if it's like negative energy being pulled, or because this whole idea of this whole universe kind of existing in this balance that's being upset by the splitting of the realms, and it's all sort of just trying to come, not to entropy, but trying to kind of come together and reignite it in the whole that it once was before the realms split, before there was, there's all this backstory stuff, and I don't know how much of it I could really talk about. I don't recall what things have been made public or not at this point.
So be careful.
Yeah, I don't want to use the word for the realm that it was called before it was broken up, because I don't know if that's made public yet. But some of the history of how the realms were formed has been created by Dee, and I just do not know if that's been shared publicly or not.
I don't think it has.
I don't believe it has.
Outside of what you've said, I don't think anything else has been released yet.
Yeah, I think that's something that's been kept under wraps for the past even like few years now. Because I did not write about it on the Dutch Age Dragon website, except for the part that is talking about how the world was once one united thing, and then the Angel Dragons were created and things split into different realms, you know. disrupting the unity. And then I think we also talked about how the other great strife of them being cast out of paradise to live in the quote-unquote lower realms. But yeah, I think that's about all I can say about that. Otherwise, we will definitely make sure that we bring some of these suggestions and questions to Dee if we can't answer them fully, and maybe it'll at least give her some food for thought, if not something for her to answer later on.
And there's your answer.
Yeah, the lore is very complicated, and a lot of it is secret, and a lot of it's very unknown by even us at this point.
That's why I like sticking to the legal aspect. At least I know what the hell I'm doing.
Well, also, like, she doesn't release it till she, knows it and wants it in the story for pretty factual, rather than go back and be like, well, I changed this name, or, well, I thought about this.
Right, and a lot of that probably won't be officially put out there until, like, the main draft or outline of the book, if not having the published book is completed first. Which, yeah, I know it makes it really hard to figure out how am I going to write my character's backstory and stuff. Well, the simple answer is that no Dutch Angel Dragon characters' backstories are considered canon. They're all meant to be fan fictions because we're all fans of the Dutch Angel Dragon world and trying to fit our characters into this world. You can have the creative freedom of expression to do kind of whatever you want with it, and that's sort of the point.
That you can make your story ever-flowing and ever-changing. You don't have to make it one set thing and never change it. Your character can be ever-changing with you.
Yep, the only thing that would be considered canon is the actual book itself whenever that gets published. And people can choose to try to make their stories align more with the canon as more information is released, as the book is being finished or is finished. People can go back and change it to try to make it align to that, but that's not a requirement. That's not an expectation. And yeah, obviously with the little information that's been released is currently impossible and impractical. So you can make it as crazy as you want, yeah.
Basically, once the book is done, from what I'm understanding, it's almost like a fan fiction for whatever, story you've written for your Dutch. If you want to change it to follow a little bit more along the line, it would be along the lines of fan fiction with your Dutch Angel Dragon.
Yeah, so if you wanted to create a story and have this idea of this, like, energy being sucked into the abyss, I think that's a pretty cool concept, and you can create a neat story out of that. Alright, we should probably move on to the next question, though.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say.
Let's do it.
And it doesn't like we're having a lot of chat activity, so good. I'm just ignoring the chat for a bit.
Oh, somebody in the chat asked about the muzzle ring rule, and yes, you can have a muzzle ring now.
Yeah, there is no rule about muzzle rings anymore. It is abolished forevermore.
Muzzle rings are free.
Dee has spoken.
Ring all you want.
Alright, someone else read the next question. Which will go down to one of non-Kristen questions.
How do you feel about pre-war suits? I was thinking of getting one.
This question was submitted by Baji Dutch, I think.
Baji. Yes.
Well, one thing that I see about a pre-worn suit is that you have to be... it's really your own personal decision if you want to have it or whatever type or whatever the case may be. But that's a very broad statement. It's like, is it a Dutchy suit or is it a...
Oh, no, this is talking about pre-war, but cast out of paradise.
Yeah, their look before they were banished,
Oh.
I think you heard worn, W-O-R-N, like a used suit.
Oh, yeah, I can't see the
With
question,
the muzzle
so
ring
that's why I'm kind of...
with the muzzle ring rule being abolished, having a pre-war suit is, to me, in my opinion, is totally fine because the main pre-war thing was the whole muzzle ring.
Right, and we
totally
absolutely
fine,
had fursuits that were created that had muzzle rings, largely by people that did not know about the original muzzle ring rule. So it would sort of be, I don't know, it was kind of unfair to a point, but you know, to have a bunch of these characters that didn't. Oh my god, stupid. Sorry. I'm holding down the button constantly, and it just decides that I'm not holding it down anymore. So all these suits that were running around before that had the muzzle rings, and then we're told that they're not a real duchy, they're invalid, or they're not allowed to have that. That was creating some problems. Definitely some issues in the community, and these people were being mistreated, or weren't being accepted, or being just kind of being outcast by the community, and that's not something we really wanted to encourage by any means. So now that the muzzle ring rule has been lifted, it reevaluates all of those suits, and it says, yes, you are totally fine for having a quote-unquote pre-war Dutch Angel Dragon suit, and you can call yourself a Dutch Angel Dragon, and you're totally cool. You can go for that now.
You are all valid.
Yeah,
Yay.
if you're all valid if I knew what the hell I was talking about.
You're all beautiful.
Sorry.
Okay, so I guess we'll go to another Kristen question then.
Yeah, all the Kristen questions are a little bit heavy.
Oh boy.
Which is totally fine. It's just that we may not be able to answer them as thoroughly as we wish we could.
Okay, I will read off this one. So another Kristen question about Dutch Angel Dragon anatomy. So since DADs are made of mostly magical energy, and when they die, they essentially become reborn again like a phoenix, does that mean their physical form has a threshold before their magical energy starts to destabilize? I can imagine that since their wings store a lot of magical energy, if they were cut off, it would seriously destabilize the magical flow within a DAD and possibly kill it or send it into a deep hibernation to recoup that magic lost. I'd love to know more about how they can die and how their authorial form works. Also, speaking of magic, does a DAD's breath ability start from the stomach or the throat pouch? I was unsure since the throat pouch is used to expel air. I was wondering it was also used to make the breath ability, or if their void stomachs can also materialize magic and expel it from there.
Okay.
That is a deep question.
And it's actually a couple of questions kind of in one.
Yeah, there's like 3 questions there.
So a lot of the anatomy-specific stuff would be probably perfect for Sniper to answer, but obviously he is not here right now.
Right.
And that we have had a very loose general understanding about the death of a Dutch Angel Dragon. At one point, it was determined that Dutch Angel Dragons were immortal and they could not die because they are like a phoenix, recycling energy constantly. However, that doesn't make for a very good character kind of plot point for like story-wise. If something cannot die, then it doesn't make for a very good character, I guess.
There's no stake
there's
in
no
the game.
flawed. Yeah, exactly. So D has changed that so that they are able to die. But what the conditions are that exist, that need to exist in order for them to die completely and never be able to reform again. Because remember, the transfer of energy, there's always going to be the same amount of energy that exists in the universe. It's only be transferred, it's never lost or gained in that sense. But they cannot form back into their physical form anymore. Like, they're just poof energy forever. That is their death. I do not know how that happens yet. As far as I know, that information has not been released.
I think she hasn't fully decided that yet.
I think that might be the case as well, that she's not 100% sure. However, as far as where their magical energy is stored in their bodies, a majority of it, I would imagine, but this is not necessarily a factor canon, that would be in their bottomless pit energy stomach thing. That's kind of like their recycling organ, whatever, that sort of draws all the magical energy to it and expels from it. Makes sense to me. I don't know if that's considered a canon fact per se, but that's sort of how I've always imagined it, is that it's like their core, their inner core, right?
So does that mean their stomachs are black holes?
Yes, that's effectively what we have just used to describe it, is that it's like a black hole.
Dutch Angel Dragons,
So-
powered by black holes.
Someone
Intel.
added into the question that we're talking about right now. They asked if whenever the Dutch Angel Dragon is reborn, if they will look the same as well, or do they get reborn into an all-new Dutch?
Yes and no.
Damn,
that-
all these questions are deep.
Well, at least that one I can actually answer. So, it's made out of the same, okay, for the lack of a better word, soul, right? Okay, so it's a collection of this energy, but the specific pattern or the energy signature, whatever, we're not 100% sure because, I mean, like, how do you describe a soul to begin with? But the concept is there that the Dutch is its own entity, its own thing. So it's the same duchy being reborn over and over again, and it will retain memories of its past life unless some traumatic event or something happens during the regeneration process. In general, they remember all their past lives every time they reincarnate. Every time they do this regeneration process, they have the choice of changing their physical form in any way they wish. Sometimes it's just minor tweaks. They might just add a few more markings to themselves. Sometimes it's a complete do-over makeover. And that is determined more or less about the individual Dutch's nature, their feelings, and their kind of wishes for themselves. For they can be and look however they choose to be as a form of self-expression. So things that they're very attracted to, they may choose to emulate some of those patterns or colors or physical features. It may be dependent on the environment they live in. For example, if they live around a lot of water, they may develop a lot of more fins and webbing between their fingers and have, more aquatic features that help them in their environment. And they may have chosen to do that because they chose to live in the water, they love the water, etc. But it's not made clear yet whether or not their environment has the kind of impact where it removes a certain level of the choice, or that it's more of a evolutionary adaptation that kind of naturally comes about because of the area they live in. That has not been revealed to us yet, but it's a common pattern to see Dutchies' physical features reflect that of their environment. How the mechanisms for that, how that necessarily works, we're not sure if there's any general, I wouldn't say rules, but tendencies or patterns or
Connection.
Yeah, variables, I guess is what I'm looking for. This is the word. Variables that need to be in place in order to kind of influence that. But otherwise, for the most part, the entire point of this regeneration is for the Duchy to kind of choose how they want to present themselves to the outside world. So they have that. It's a really cool, unique ability that I like about this species a lot. But back to some of the breath ability thing from Kristen's question. So not 100% sure exactly if there's a specific, a species-wide rule about where their magical energy is stored, or whether that they have control over. I want to put all my magical ability in this one wing. So if that wing got cut off or something, would that kill the Dutch? Maybe. I don't know, because we have no idea how that works yet either. But it's an interesting idea. And the breath abilities, obviously not every Duchy has a breath-based ability. They may have other kinds of magical powers and whatnot, but breath weapon definitely being a common one since, hey, dragons. Again, I don't necessarily think it necessarily needs to come from a specific place, like the stomach or the throat pouch. This has not really been revealed to us, like, as a community or as the admin team about the complexities or the inner workings of all of this. However, a lot of the internal anatomy and external anatomy stuff was handled by Twilight, specifically talking back and forth with Dee and giving suggestions about, okay, we should add this anatomy feature in there because XYZ, and how it relates to how it works in the animal world, or how it makes sense kind of more or less logically for the species. And that's kind of how a lot of those things were developed. And I do not believe this is one of those things that has been discussed yet between those two. But their throat pouch is not necessarily like their lungs. I don't know. It's weird because, like, when you have a species that's, like, completely made up, but it's not 100%, I don't know what the word is, scientifically real or any in that sense. Like, most of their anatomy doesn't really truly make sense, but enough of it does that it has a little bit of scientific base to it. The simple fact is Dutchies don't need to breathe. They don't have lungs. They don't have circulatory systems. They have magical circulatory systems, if you will. They do have quote unquote blood, but it's not real. It's not like made of plasma and white blood cells and red blood cells and stuff. It's not like normal blood, but they do have this substance that does flow through their body. So knowing that, I would probably argue that they are just, their entire body has this magical energy system flowing through them at all times. Where it might be condensed in greater densities than others, I can't say. But they don't breathe, so their throat pouch is mostly just a internal pocket. It's like a storage pouch. They can put things in there. That's how they carry things around. They could use it however they want, but that's typically the most common use, is that they just sort of like hold things in there and take it with them, because they don't have like hands, so that's just kind of like an adaptation. Like, it's one thing that they can do. It's like a kangaroo's belly pouch sort of thing, but it's inside. As far as I know, that's the only use for the throat pouch. And then this void stomach is where they can store food in the throat pouch if they want, but they can also just put it into their little void stomachs, and that will generate more energy for them. They don't actually need to eat, but that's the most effective way to gain more energy, is to put it inside themselves and break it down internally so it goes into their system. Because some Dutchies may be able to absorb magic out of the air or just kind of exist that way, but you could give yourself more energy, which is why a lot of Dutchies have developed a taste for eating specific things, because they like it. They can experience it. They have senses in which to process it and experience these things, but like, they don't actually need to eat, but most choose to do so anyway because it's helpful for them. And it may also taste amazing. Who knows? It depends. Again, they have preferences.
Tempo actually stores his music player in his throat pouch, so he usually has a cord coming from his mouth to his headphones.
I didn't know that. That's funny.
Yep.
And all Torch's heat is in the tip of his tail, kind of like a Charmander kind of thing.
Aww.
Aw, that is cute.
Cute.
Yeah, so in that example, I would say that it makes perfect sense for Torch to like store a lot of his energy kind of in his tail, and can sort of, he's got a lot of control over his body, or all the Dutchies kind of do, so you can sort of direct all of the energy toward that section of the body, and it heats it up, and that's where you draw your power from. I think that totally makes sense. I can't comment whether it's like quote unquote canon, but I would assume that would work just fine.
So next question.
Yeah, based on everything else that we know about Dutchies, that seems to be the logical conclusion.
Time for next question.
Yes.
So I think that this next one was kind of answered with the backstory type thing, but the next question was, what is considered an appropriate backstory for your Dutch Angle Dragon?
And that question was asked by Shavako, if I'm pronouncing that right.
Only your imagination can hold your backstory as long as it matches the basic guide.
Yeah, we did mention this earlier, just how it's basically a fanfic. You can do whatever the heck you want.
Shavako. That's a cool name.
Yeah, I like it too. So whether something is quote unquote appropriate, clearly you can't make a story about your Dutch Angel Dragons, like, having sexual relations with other duchies. 'Cause
Lewd.
that does not work with their
Lewd.
physical anatomy, and it goes against the community guidelines and things like that. So as long as you're not inappropriate in that sense, and you're giving enough of accommodation to the limited understanding of the Dutch Angel Dragon's anatomy and lore to an extent, I mean, other than that, there is no, like, policing of backstories people have created, because they're just meant to be fun fan fiction expressions that people have they want to give with their characters. Again, it's non-canon, so you can kind of do whatever you want. You can make your duchies talk, in human language. You can make them visit you in your house in the real world, and you could go for a ride on their back, even if that's not something that might happen in a canon story. That could totally happen in your story, no problem.
Oh man, riding on Whisper's back would be hard. She got butt wings.
You have to just invent a very crazy saddle. Maybe she just carry you. She can just carry you.
That'd be easier.
She could ride on you.
Oh no.
Okay, so I guess I kind of answered that, I think.
Do we want to answer another one of the other people's questions before we go to another Kristen question?
Yeah,
Since
I'd
the
agree with
questions are
that.
very long.
Since, yeah.
Okay, so the next question was from Rogue. It is, what is a Songphily? They missed that part of the MFF panel.
Well, I mean, I was the one who kind of went on a thing about that when I was at the panel. I could probably just pull that out again.
Be my guest, dear.
For sure, I wasn't at the meet, so.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Well, it's also on the Facebook.
Yeah, I believe someone pulled it up for me on Facebook, and I mostly read off of that. That was helpful.
So let's refer you to the documents.
Yeah. Let's pull that up. That would probably be a little bit more useful, but I can at least say in general, a Songphily is the replacement word, or at least the duchy specific word, to describe a relationship between two or more duchies. Instead of saying mate or husband and wife or partner or like any of those other words, it's just a synonym, but specifically referring to the deep connection that Dutch Angel Dragons have with one another.
Aww.
Aww. Yeah, because there was some issues with some of the terminology describing a relationship between duchies, like saying, oh, they're my boyfriend or girlfriend, or, something like that. But it was odd in the context of the Dutch Angel Dragons because they're considered a sexless sort of species. So there's not gender-specific words to describe things, and a lot of these other relationship kind of words might imply something that is not intended to with the level of intimacy that they might have. And to avoid a lot of those issues, the Songphily word was coined to describe just kind of the deep, close bonds. And this could be anything represent from just a friendship that duchies have, or it can be more of a representation of like we're bonded, like mated for life idea, where they might actually reproduce with that duchy, create another life form, another duchy, from their unique way that they reproduce in their life cycle and everything. To have that kind of connection, you would describe that as a Songphily just as much as you describe, these are my really close buddies, my friends for life. Doesn't necessarily imply that they have to be like super intimate, but at least they have this very strong connection in a way that's meaningful to them.
They also share their energy between each other.
Right, that's true. It's kind of like a sign of kinship, of trust.
And I actually have the post pulled up right now.
Hey, good. I was just sort of stalling until somebody did that. Thank you.
They share energy, and it helps them to become stronger. And let's see, they
that
seem
basically
inseparable, and they show their affection in many non-sexual ways, often common to what is seen in other feral animals, from grooming each other to sleeping together in a huddle. In some rare cases, they will fuse together and create another Dutch angel dragon youngling.
And there you
So
go.
yeah,
Deep.
So someone in the chat wanted to know how Songphily was spelled. Let me type that in there. Is it with a Y or if it's IE at the end? I can't actually recall.
it's. I think she. It. Let me look.
Songphile.
So more like
I think
Filey.
it's spelled two different ways. Because it's like IES when it's multiple, I think.
Yeah, you can put it in a plural form. It's Songphilies.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Also, Dutchies can't kiss.
Right. They don't have lips. Not in this normal sense, anyway.
The way that it's put on the page is basically it's
Yeah,
the
IE. You're right, Michelle. Or Voodoo.
the word meaning is two of one soul.
Yeah, two of one soul. A Songphily. So yeah, I like that concept a lot. It's a really cute word. It's a really cute idea. I'm really glad that Dee introduced that to the species. And that was like a year ago, I think. It was around, I think, Valentine's Day.
See
if I
it.
remember right.
January 25th of 2019.
Oh my god, almost exactly a year ago.
Yeah.
Sorry guys, I'm in and out of this. I'm one of the officers is on a stop, so I'm listening out. But I'm listening.
You're fine.
I guess it's next
Okay,
question.
well, I
then.
think that answered the question, so we'll go on to the next one.
Yeah.
I guess we'll do one more of the non-Christian questions for now, and then we'll go back to Christians.
Won't enter my real name.
Yes.
Dino the Dutchie.
What gave you the idea for the Dutch Angel Dragon?
This would be specifically asking Dee or Telephone this. This is definitely something that's been described on the website.
It is on the website.
Yeah, DutchAndDragons.com. Okay, so I'm not Dee, but speaking on our behalf, which I do not attempt to try to do, but only because we actually have we can read this off, like it's worded on the site. So the idea for the Dutch Angel Dragon was primarily inspired by her love of horses, and she had, of course, the horse named Dutch, who had passed away when she was a kid, and that is where we get the name Dutch in the Dutch Angel Dragons. And as far as like the telephone and the idea of these like mysterious dragons themselves came to Dee in a dream when she was really young, and then she decided to try to draw this dragon that she found in the dream, and that's how Telephone was created. And the very first time it was posted on FA, we have the picture on the website too, and I can't remember the year unless I could look it up. But I want to say it was like 2012 or something like that, was the first time that it was ever displayed publicly, the concept of the species and their kind of general idea. And it was sort of inspired by, obviously, a love for dragons and horses, but it was more or less directly from everything that she could remember from the dream of what this character looked like.
2009.
Hey, all right. I wanted to say it was 2009, but I was like, that's like 10 years ago or more. That feels like maybe a little too long ago, but thank you for looking that up.
I got you.
Yeah, because I got all these windows open trying to manage stream stuff, so share the load. Thank you.
Makes it easy because I'm on my phone.
So that's kind of where the idea for the Dungeons and Dragons came from, and how Telephone was created, and then Telephone was really cute, and everybody loved her, and the rest is history.
Yep. Adorable history.
Next question time.
Guess we're going back to Christian's question. I could read this one, I suppose. Question regarding Paradise and the Halo Rings. So, it is known that the Halo Rings were a sign of allegiance to Paradise, but I was also wondering if it was used as a magical key to enter Paradise. I assume Paradise had an impressive magical barrier that kept out most evildoers, and I was wondering if the Halo Ring was used by duchies to travel into Paradise. Also, another theory. I am willing to bet that this key that all duchies possess is how the evildoers of Abyss were able to siege war in Paradise, and a huge reasons why the DADs were cast out. The DADs that were corrupted by the Abyss were used to get through the barrier, and even possibly take it down for a period of time. I love thinking about the lore and how exactly the war went down. I'd love to hear what you guys had to say in this. Oh boy. So, there is a lot in this one that we cannot talk about, I will just straight up tell you.
Yep.
There's a main point of conflict that leads to a bunch of stuff that happens in the book. And I can't even say if all of it is exactly the same or if anything's changed since then, but from what I know, there is a way that kind of evil sort of got into Paradise and sort of caused a bunch of stuff, because obviously something had to cause all this stuff. And there is a significant connection between the rings and Paradise, but it's not used necessarily as a key per se. It's something else to do with the duchies that allows them to reside there. And the Halo ring, yes, it is a sign of allegiance to Paradise, but it has a couple of meanings that we can't talk about either. So, sorry. Yes?
Sorry, can't say much.
Thank you.
Her questions are like definitely some
Oh, I know.
true, deep thought, logic to these questions. I mean, they're amazing questions. It's better than the whole,
We appreciate them.
What color can I have my duchy? I mean, there's some damn good questions, but holy hell.
Yeah, we appreciate these questions. We just can't answer them because we don't know or we can't tell you.
But there's definitely, like, you're kind of like on the right track of like figuring out like how this is sort of coming together, and it's interesting to see your perspective on everything. And I really appreciate too just like how involved and interested the community is in some of this deeper lore stuff that doesn't, currently isn't public information, and they're kind of like filling the blanks, and they're very creative about it. And it's really, really fascinating to see like what other people's kind of thought processes are with this and their ideas and stuff. And it's just like, wow, there's a lot of things that you're kind of like on the right track here, and a lot of things that it's like, oh, I never thought about that. That's why I like these Q&As.
Beep.
Okay, well, since we're unable to answer a lot of that one, I guess we'll move on to the next question then.
I wish I could say
The
more.
next one, yeah. The next one is an anonymous question. They asked, will there be any announcement for any European ambassadors in the future? They'd like to see a Dutch Angel Dragon panel at like conventions in Europe, like Eurofurence.
In the past, we have had 2 European ambassadors, but both of which have stepped down, and we would definitely like to have representation in that part of the world again.
Oh, so they're still allowed to do panels, aren't they?
Yeah, the kind of requirements, what you could say, for having community leaders in different areas that may be able to kind of fill in the idea of, we can't be there in person and somebody wants to host like a meet or some event or something at a panel. You don't have to be an ambassador, a moderator, an admin in order to do these things, but you do need to have permission from Dee herself in order to do this. And
what I mean is, Remix still has permission to do panels.
Yeah, I believe she does.
Yes, I remember Dee saying so.
And so that's obviously up to Remix whether or not she wants to take on that responsibility to do so, to organize something like officially. She does. She is one of the community members that has been given that permission, and she is in Europe. But as far as an actual ambassador, not just somebody that can host panels officially on our behalf or something like that, that can help with other online things. Because we do have the European page. I believe it's temporarily been disabled, if I remember right.
I think so.
I believe so.
Yeah, because we don't have anyone currently.
Yeah, so we simply just don't have anybody that's on our radar yet, that we've seen from the European area, that has been kind of an outstanding member of the community that also has the availability in their life and schedule to help out. Because the way that we've always chosen members of the community to be part of admin, ambassador, moderator teams is simply by watching for participation in the community, and we might approach them with the offer. We don't have any public applications or anything like that. So it's simply just we are on the lookout for somebody who exemplifies all of the qualities that we're looking for. And as big as the Europe, part of the world kind of is, including in like the furry community, it's not super large for the Dutch Angel Dragon community yet. There's not a very large pool of people that are very active that we've noticed participating in all the community channels and stuff.
That, and sometimes it takes time to really kind of watch, and see how somebody is within the community before we can, even decide anything like that.
Right. It's definitely something like, this person might be having potential, and then we have to kind of look into it and research and see how they handle themselves on the public discourse, for example. Making sure that they have the qualities to be taking a more of a leadership role in a group. It's very difficult to try to...
Especially in a leadership role where they don't have the support of the rest of the team on the same level as, those of us in the United States or, our other ambassadors.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's kind of been a pretty slow process, I guess, in order to kind of fill those roles around the world. And whether or not they are... It's not a very high priority, I suppose, for us either. We haven't felt like there's been a need to add a lot of people onto the team. The community participation level of Dungeons & Dragons has gone way down compared to like 4 or 5 years ago when it was at its like real peak. It was just a brand new species and everybody wanted to be one, and there was just a lot more constant traffic and constant posting onto the community websites and things like that, and it was sort of like too much. We couldn't handle it all. It's really calmed down since then, so it hasn't been a priority for us to try to find somebody that's in the European side of the world to kind of handle just the European community.
It's not a bad thing, though. I mean, it's actually having things calm down a little bit makes it easier to keep track of things.
Right.
Yeah, plus more hands in the pot does cause a little bit of an issue for us as admin, but what we have right now works really well together. And like they were saying earlier, is that as soon as we find somebody that we think as a group and can come to a joint agreement to say, yeah, this person's going to work well with us, and they're not going to try to kind of overboast themselves or whatever the case may be, because we're not here to have the title and go out and flaunt it or whatever the heck. We're doing it just because we want to help.
Yeah, we all really care about Dee.
That's exactly it. We are basically a face for her outside of herself, so we have to be very careful on who we bring in and what we are able to trust people with.
Yeah, we're just trying to take some of the burden off of her shoulders because she's got enough going on.
Like, if I were to go out and act like a butt, like, it would affect her.
Right. So acting like a butt whisper. It's not allowed.
Yeah, we already have one that does that. I'm sorry.
No
Hey!
butt heading allowed.
All right, on to the next question, I think.
Okay. Next one is another Anon, and they are asking, when will the social media site for Duchies be released? Well, we have several social media sites. We have a Telegram. We have Facebook. Do we have an Instagram?
No, we don't. But we have Discord and DeviantArt. But
Telegram.
We have a Facebook.
yeah, those are our main places that we're active. But we kind of wanted to create a centralized location that's away from Facebook, because we have a lot of gripes with the way that Facebook groups are managed. Is to create our own Facebook, but just for Duchies.
That's what they meant. Okay.
Yeah, that's what they meant.
Confused me.
That's fair.
Me too.
So, the social media site, not just all the social media sites, but the main base of operations, something that we have been attempting to kind of put together for several years, has currently been put on the back burner once again. A lot of the momentum that is needed to kind of carry that project forward, it relies on a lot of constant involvement and communication with Dee. And so when she's busy, it means that we can't do a whole lot of development stuff, because I personally want to require her input on everything. I don't want to do anything on her behalf that represents her without her approval.
Get that D stamp of approval.
Exactly. And even though she's like, oh, I trust you, like, you can do this, I'm like, no, I'm not cutting you out of this. So that has been put on hold temporarily, but we have had sort of the very bare bones base site development stuff. It exists, but we have a lot of discussions and planning on a lot of the back end things about how the site will actually operate and function, both from the user side of utilizing the site and its features, what those features even are to begin with, and how it's handled on the back end for the admin stuff, to figure out, okay, what do the admins require, that's their needs for making their work efficient, how is it going to be different from Facebook, how is this all going to run, like everything has to be built from scratch, and we haven't completely figured out all of the different ways that we want the site to operate yet. In order for these things to be developed, they need to be very well laid out and planned. And so, we have an amazing developer, and he's very talented, but he can't do anything until he's got clear instructions and which to execute to do the thing. He gets to figure out how to make it work. We just have to figure out what it is that we want to work in the first place. And so it's a very slow process, because we want to make sure that these core features and functionality of the site, they have to go in there from the beginning. You can't just easily change it later. So it's a lot of developmental stuff. It's a very long process. One day we might actually get there. And then on top of that, then we have to work on the actual site design itself. The actual interface, the GUI, what it looks like, and where are the buttons, menus are placed, and so where it makes sense, and it's, it feels right. Like, God, like, I had a lot of grandiose ideas for, yes, we can make this beautiful site, it'll be wonderful, but actually sitting down and actually kind of working through these nitty-gritty steps to get there, it's very, very difficult, and it's not something that can be done overnight. So we like to take the time to do it right. We've started over the project at least once, because we switched developers halfway through, and we changed the kind of direction we wanted to go with it, and maybe one day it will be a thing. So we have no idea when that's going to be released. We kept saying, oh, maybe we'll get it done by this date at this con, and I'm like, nah. There's some good things and bad things about trying to set hard deadlines for yourself. Hard deadlines can help push productivity. They can help get the schedule going. But it can also help. You can also easily rush things that way. So it's kind of a double-edged sword.
Hey guys, sorry to interrupt, but I got to roll. I got a call, so I'll catch up with you guys.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thanks,
All right,
Torch.
stay safe, Torch.
No worries. Hey, Sonar, check your stuff later.
Have fun.
Oh, okay, fine. Alright, but eventually, if for those who aren't familiar with the social media site, the goal is to effectively replace Facebook and make like a better Facebook. It will have a place where you can make a profile for yourself and sub-profiles, if you will, for all your Dutch Age of Dragon characters. And you can actually transfer these characters to other users if you'd like, if you sell a duchy or something like that. And it will have like a collection of database of everybody's characters, so you can actually browse through and see a compilation of like everybody's characters and all of their information, which is something I've always wanted since we started this community. And we used to have like a forum you could fill out and you can submit your duchy's name, your information, your ref sheet, and things like that. So we had like a list of everybody's characters and their owners, and it was impossible to manage because it had like over 1,000 characters in there, and we had to update it manually, and it was awful. So that is a big thing. And we also want to have sort of like a marketplace section where you can actually browse and see designs and characters and suits and whatever that's for sale, buy, sell, trade kind of stuff, if possible. It comes with its own set of complications, though, to create a marketplace sort of setup. And a lot of legal things as well, though we didn't feel like, we have to be concerned about this now. Oops. And then there's also a section where I want to be able to break it down so you can actually see posts based on their content. For example, you only want to see fursuit stuff, fursuit videos, fursuit pictures, work in progress, costume builds, whatever. I'm looking for a suit maker. I'm offering commissions. It'll be like a suit section only, and over here will be an art section only. Like, I want it to be separated by categories based on topics that make sense, so that you can actually go to the site and find and interact with the people and the content that you want to see. That's Dutch Age of Dragon specific. You cannot do that on the Facebook group. Because what we ended up having to do as a solution to this problem is break up the Facebook group into several different Facebook groups. So we have one that's specifically for free artwork for duchies. We have one that's specifically for adopts for duchies. And then we got the main community site. We could break it down further into all these micro groups, but there comes a point where it's like, we can't manage like all of these individual groups, and it's just going to spread the community really thin, and it's not good. So I really would like to centralize this. That's the vision for this site, but it's a very kind of grandiose idea too. It's very ambitious. It's taking a lot longer. So yeah, no deadline or anything like that. The information about when it's released, but that is the goal of that project. And for now, it is put on the back burner until things in our personal lives kind of align a little bit better and allows us more time to kind of sit down and work on this together with D. So that is all I have to say about that.
So I have a question from Alexis in the chat, and it's, I've seen duchies based off of things like switches. Are we only allowed to not name them after companies, or can we not base them off of them either? You can base them off of things, but doing things like naming them after companies is really bad because it can get you sued for copyright infringement.
Yeah, it's kind of like bad practice, I guess, to try to create something that looks like it's almost intended to be a representation of that thing, like an official representation of that thing. Well, this issue came up when people were like, can I make a breast cancer awareness dragon or something like that? That was the original issue that came up with this. We're like, that might cause some complications with the organization. If you were to try to take your costume and try to proclaim yourself as spreading awareness for breast cancer and you make a pink duchy, people might think you're officially associated with that company, and that could get you in trouble. So we kind of...
like, if you were to, for the example of the Nintendo Switch, if you were to make one that looks like a Nintendo Switch and you also called it Nintendo Switch, Nintendo might not like that and send you a cease and desist, which you really wouldn't want.
And also the fact that if you use a company's logo directly on your character as like a marking, let's say you really like Apple, and you put the Apple logo as like a cutie mark on your duchy, that logo is copyrighted to Apple. that is a unauthorized use of their trademark. And again, that would be a copyright issue, and so we can't officially like allow that.
Apple bottom Dutch.
But so in the case of so something can be themed off of a company or event or something, as long as it's enough of a disassociation with them.
Be clever.
Be a little clever about it. So you can totally have a themed Nintendo Switch themed duchy where it's half red, half blue, and you named it Switch. That's fine because Switch is enough of a general word that works. But if you named it Nintendo registered trademark Switch, if you use that word, that would be an issue.
I found another question within the chat, and it is when they from Coffee. When they fuse to make a new Dutch Angel Dragon youngling, do the two who fuse disappear? The answer is no.
So
they do not disappear.
There are two things that happens when they fuse. One is that they could get stuck together to kind of create one new entity, and this is where you get a lot of very strange-looking mutant duchies, where they might have an extra tail or an extra set of eyes or something.
Yeah, like the two become weird and one,
and they may have split personalities. There's a bunch of other kind of issues that go with it. Like it's meant to be like a mutant defect of sorts. It's also uncommon, just as real mutations are uncommon, but they happen. So that is one of the potential side effects that can happen when they fuse. They become one, is that they try to reform in their physical form, and they got stuck together by mistake. The other thing, of course, is that when they fuse and then separate, it may leave some residual energy behind, which forms into a new Dutch, and that's effectively how they reproduce. And as far as the specifics about how that kind of works, hasn't really been too, thoroughly evaluated and shared with us yet. But that's the basic concept or principle of the idea, is that they can come together in a energy-based form, and it creates new life from that interaction when they separate. Kind of like a Big Bang chemical explosion. We made a baby, kind of.
Suddenly, baby.
Suddenly that happened.
Where did that come from? What?
And again, duchies most of the time will only fuse together on purpose, or if they're Songphillies. There are cases where it has happened by mistake, however. And I think that's where a lot of the mutant kind of cases might come from. I don't know. That's not a canon or anything like that, but it's one idea. Only because that has been mentioned before by D. Yeah, that's kind of the basics about the fusing thing. And that it takes a heck of a lot of energy to do it. Also a heck of a lot of time. It isn't instantaneous. When they go back to physical form, they come back as an egg. They don't come back as a fully formed Dutch. The egg has to regenerate all the energy that it just spent to do this this whole fusing process, and then has to hatch later. And then children or baby duchies, they tend to have traits from both of their parents, as kind of one would expect. And once they're old enough to have the ability to regenerate themselves, that's when they can choose what their new form will look like.
So I see a question here that is related to baby duchies. So why don't we handle this one while we're on this
That
subject?
sounds good.
good idea.
So this one's from Wolf and Fluffy. They ask, I know two duchies can die and then reform to make a baby, but is it a thing where a Dutch Angel Dragon pair adopt a lone hatchling or egg?
Yeah, absolutely. Duchies are very social creatures, so it's definitely just like kind of in the real animal kingdom, not unheard of for something to happen where there's a baby left alone, and it gets adopted by new parents. Absolutely.
So yes.
Gotta
Yes.
feed the babies.
And I think we answered this one already.
Oh yeah, there was another question from Nicola Berserda. I am bad at names. I'm sorry. Okay, that's the one we were actually answered earlier. That was about the eggs. That's what's prompted this whole thing.
Okay. Well, after that simple question, let's answer one of Kristen's questions. Okay, question regarding the denizens of paradise. So it is known that the denizens created the Dutch angel dragons out of magical energy and were used for a variety of tasks. So my question is, did many of the denizens have their own bond and duchy? I assume some handled them more than others, but I want a more specification on the relationship between the denizens of paradise and their deity creations. Were they seen more as tools by some and pets as others? And delving into more on the creation aspect, where each DAD created the same way or differently. Their bodies are created mostly by magic, so I assume there could be more than one way to create a duchy.
Oh boy. Well, this is what we get from reading a Kristen question.
There's a lot on that we can't quite talk about.
Yeah, that's very true. We
Again.
can't say a lot for the paradise stuff. Again, because that's a huge focus of the book. But I would say in general, your assumption about some might be handling them and have a relationship, they might be seen as tools, or others by pets. The answer is yes. So yeah, just a kind of, the book will certainly give more details and information about the relationships between the duchies and paradise and how they were created and why and for what, to what ends and things like that. But yeah, those are all straight book themes, so yeah, we can't really say much more on that.
Sorry.
Yeah. But however, they're also have that same kind of relationship with Aether. Something that Dee has been working on for a long time, and I believe she's mentioned she might have even given some teasers about pictures and stuff that she's drawn of creating the quote-unquote domestic Dutch, which has got like the cropped ears, it's got like harnesses, it's used effectively as a tool for the denizens of the Aether realm. So
She has talked about like how sometimes they're used kind of like chicken fighting.
yeah, I know.
Which she did release on her Twitter.
Okay, yeah, I couldn't recall.
Yeah, I didn't see that one.
I wanted to say she did.
She released that at Anthro.
Yeah, I believe that she showed a bunch of stuff at the con.
And then she posted it on her Twitter, but she didn't actually post it on the Dutch page, which we probably should do.
Anthro was such a blur, I couldn't remember anything from that.
That was when we had the Thursday night party at the we reserved the nightclub for.
Yeah, she first described it there, and then she did again at the panel.
Okay, yeah, because I do remember the 6th anniversary party. We showed a bunch of kind of secret stuff that she'd been working on. So that was probably the closest to being the next big piece of lore and backstory and species information to come out. That she's been working on that for about 2 years, I think.
She's been working hard on it.
Yeah, just on and off when she has time. Her big focus right now is just her fursuit queue, so I don't know when she might be getting to that, but that would be the next thing that was going to be talking about the domesticated Dutch as far as a big announcement goes. So hopefully it'll be soon.
There's also a lot to think about with it.
Oh yeah, definitely. She's got her hands full.
Oh yeah. So, a question from Sprinkles the Duchy. I gave my Duchy a whale-like fluke. Is that allowed?
Yes.
It is indeed.
I did mention earlier about aquatic features, like adding fins and things like that. I just happened to use that example, but like totally answers that question.
Exactly.
That was simple.
So all of our questions are now Kristen questions.
No, we have some more.
No, we have one more.
Yeah.
We do, I guess I just have to update it.
Yeah. Let's take one from Novona. Is there no possible way for a DAD to leave the abyss if they've been dragged down?
There is definitely ways that a duchy can leave the abyss, but it would, most cases, be very, very difficult because of what kind of brought them there in the first place. You could think of it as an allegory for people that are struggling with depression, addiction, things like that. It's totally possible for them to get out of that, but it's very difficult.
I do like that allegory for depression because depression is a very serious thing, and it's for some people it's something they fight with all their lives, and so that being stuck with the abyss and being dragged down to the abyss is something that a duchy will have to deal with their entire existence. So it's a good allegory.
Yeah, absolutely, especially because like you have the symbolism of the dark markings. A lot of times something goes black, or even the black blood that kind of flows to them from being tainted by the abyss, and that sticks with them. Even when they regenerate, there's still again a lot of times a part of them that's still connected to that. It's like a scar of the past, and again, that's just exactly how it is when dealing with depression in the real world too. It changes you, and it will always kind of leave an impression that was part of you. But a lot of what might be really cool about creating a story or a character that had experienced the abyss and then got out, it's kind of like a redemption arc, or just kind of exploring their personal struggles and overcoming that and escaping the abyss. So it's totally possible, absolutely.
Okay. Well, let's take on another Christian question. Actually, I think we can answer this one. I think.
Wow, we can actually answer one?
I think we can answer this one. So, a question on magic and physical forms. So, since duchies use their magic to manifest their ethereal forms, does that mean the larger the DAD, the less they are able to use their magic outwardly? So, like the bigger, not being a. Okay. Does this mean that tiny duchies are very sprite-like? Like they glitter and glow because they give off excess energy? Of course, I bet that being small and magical can also have downsides, like being fragile. I imagine it's evened out depending on what form they choose, right?
So duchies are very individualistic. It's not something that could be applied as a concept to the whole of the species. From what I kind of understand about how the goal of the idea of what Dee wants for this, but I don't believe that their size. I mean, logically, it would kind of make sense that if they are a really large duchy, then it means you need more energy in order to maintain such a larger form.
I do know that, like, they can become, like, bigger and they, like, from more and more energy, like, they can actually become chonky from too much energy.
Chonk. They thick.
Chonk.
Gotta lay off a cake.
Gotta lay off those good vibes of getting chonky.
So I don't believe that there is an official lore or species like instructions or outlines on this specifically, other than it is confirmed canon that you can have duchies that are really tiny or really huge. But whether or not there's a specific energy exchange or requirement to maintain those, which does make sense to me, has not been something that Dia has ever commented on.
Yeah, it sounds more like just individuality of a duchy and like how they react to being bigger or being smaller.
Yeah, I don't know if it's like a universal rule that the big ones need more energy, but it kind of makes sense. Maybe something we should probably bring to Dee's attention.
Like the red ones go faster?
I just know about the chonk thing because I had to ask Dee because I had somebody ask that if their duchy could be chunky.
Yeah, totally. Again, they can choose whatever like body image they want for themselves too. Part of their whole expression. But there are definitely things that have like direct effects and consequences for their actions, just like anything would. Even though they are given so much choice and control over how they physically look, you know, there's still other kind of quirks and things that affect that too. For one thing being, again, if you're tainted by the abyss, you get some black in your coat, or your blood, quote unquote blood, energy is mixed with the black. Like, that's not something that you can control. You might control kind of how it looks in your pattern, but you might have to, you know, keep some of the black there or something. Like, there's not really a hard rule about that, other than the fact that it's commonly known duchies from the abyss are tainted with black, and you can't wipe it off or get rid of it because the abyss has tainted you. It's like a parasite.
And that's why Tempo is dark gray. He's not black.
Before that was released, I decided that Whisper had black skin, like a polar bear. Oops.
Well, that doesn't sound like a hard rule.
No, it's not. And for example, Sonar is mostly black. I mean, it's actually like a really dark blue. It's because it was based off of a magpie, and they've got really like shiny, shimmery kind of feathers that's got a lot of different iridescent blues and greens and stuff in it. But that was before the before the Abyss rule kind of became known, being a thing. And from any little backstory that I actually have of Sonar, she's never been to the Abyss.
Yeah, neither has Tempo.
Even though she's mostly
or maybe
black. It's not a hard rule. However,
maybe she wanted to be blue, but then she got tainted, so it's like overlaying the blue. But she's trying to be blue.
There you go. Yeah, and again, I haven't really thought of a big bunch of story for Sonar yet. However, one thing that could happen, and again, it's not canon, but kind of a cool story idea, the idea that duchies that are black tend to be ones that have been tainted by the Abyss, so there might be some sort of discrimination in their society for black duchies. You know, oh, there could be something wrong with them, and then they can kind of get outcasted or segregated to a point. So people that maybe, or duchies that might choose to have black rather than were forced to have black because of the Abyss, may have to really consider the outcome of what that decision might mean for their role in society. Again, we don't know a whole lot about how duchy society really works, other than some of the little information that's been released, and a lot of it being relating the duchies to very animal-like traits and behaviors on how their society kind of works, and how, like, for example, the Songphillies thing works. And hopefully a lot of that information will kind of get released or can be demonstrated in Dee's book when she kind of gets around to it. But it's just kind of something that I've thought about.
Maybe duchies that choose to be black want to be left alone.
That's also another good point.
Deep. Or, you know, it's like, I'm not abyssal, it's just a phase. It's a phase. It's like being black. What's wrong with you? Okay. So, next question. This is from Fox the Inky Sakura, I think. Hello, I am from Taiwan. Have you thought about coming to Taiwan for a party? I think they mean convention.
Probably,
what
yeah.
It sounds like. I would love to go to.
Unlikely.
Yeah, I'd love to go to a convention in Taiwan, or in any other countries.
Yeah, I know a friend that went to the Taiwanese convention this past year and had a freaking great time. I would love to do more traveling of the world kind of thing, and definitely going overseas to the Asian and European countries has been like really high on my list, for sure.
Yeah, I finally have a passport. I can actually go to them now.
Nice. Yeah, we don't have a huge. We definitely don't have a huge. Oh, sorry, we don't have a huge duchy community in the Asian countries.
There's actually quite a lot of duchies in the Asian communities.
Really?
There's a lot more than you think. Yeah.
Huh.
I know there was Brownie, that the suit that
Brownie's in Japan. There's Nutty. There's a bunch of them.
So I'm wondering, if probably some of those members of the community or those people that are interested in duchies might travel to Taiwan for the convention because it's a lot closer to them.
You should have seen how many duchies were actually at the what's it called? The Japanese FurCon.
Oh, really? I never saw like a group picture or anything of that.
I think I have.
I didn't see like a group picture, but I follow a lot of Japanese furs on Twitter, and like there were a ton of them, and there's this really cute like new suit, and it's got the biggest bappers ever. It's like a plush suit, and it's so cute.
Aw. Okay, well that's really cool because I mean I feel like the biggest issue when it comes to international representation for the Dutch Angel Dragons is that there's a lot of like maybe language and cultural barriers that make it harder for them to interact with the main group here in the U.S.
There's also things like bans on Facebook in certain Asian areas.
Oh.
Again, more reasons to get away from Facebook.
So yeah, like there are things like bans, or it's not a site that's used as much.
That's true.
So yeah.
So I would think it's probably fairly unlikely that one of us might be going to Taiwan anytime soon to host some sort of official Angel Dragon event. But if we ever got the opportunity, we'd definitely love to.
We'd also need a translator.
I mean, actually, a lot of English is a pretty well-used language in Asian countries, for sure.
Oh, I'm definitely aware of that.
So I'm sure you could find somebody that could help, somebody local that could help with a lot of the translation. I'm sure that's already a thing that's sort of implemented into their convention events. I can ask my friend who went about it.
Yeah, because translators.
All right, we'll go on to another question.
There's one for Torch, but he left. I think we might know the answer to this one.
Oh, I know the answer to this one. I can read the question.
Okay, go ahead.
Question for Torch. In past videos, I saw Torch in suit/character, and it's 2020. Where has the suit been? Will it come back? I've been waiting to see him someday in suit. It's adorable. The suit is currently with I believe, and he's getting a 2.0.
Yeah, completely revamped the design, and we'll be getting a brand new fresh suit. And I don't know where he is on the queue.
I don't know
I'm
either.
almost thinking he's a weekend project.
He might be one of those. It would not surprise me anyway.
So he will return eventually. It's just a matter of whenever Eno's able to get to him in her work list.
Yeah.
Just waiting for the cuteness to pop back up.
Alright, so I'll read the next one here. This one's from Wobbin Williams.
I approve of that name.
Hi, I'm not sure if my question is just a theory I heard a while ago or something that came up in conversations ages ago with friends, but I'll ask it anyway and see where it goes. If I remember correctly, duchies are able to manipulate objects in the real world with their energy, right? And if they manifest through energy, they can even become... Uh-oh, did it get cut off?
It's probably become physical.
Or maybe it's become a horse. Because they can take over a horse.
Become a horse, become physical. It's all related.
I don't know if it just didn't get copied into the document right or that somehow something got cut off there, but I can at least answer the first part. So yes, duchies can manipulate objects in the real world with their energy. Like I mentioned, this works better in places where like the veil between the worlds is really thin, so it's easier for Aether to affect and interact with Terra. That's where you get a lot of things like sightings of mythical creatures and things like that. And if a duchy uses like a significant amount of energy, they can interact with the world almost like a poltergeist. And
somebody in
then the other half of the question I can't really answer because it got cut off, sadly.
Somebody in the chat asked, how big can a duchy get?
I believe we've said it can be like
Double-decker bus.
double-decker bus, like a 2-story house.
And isn't it something like small as a kitten or small as a cat?
Yeah.
Smells
I believe somebody asked once if they could fit in a teacup, and the answer was yes, because like kittens can be tiny enough to do that.
I have a picture of that, of Tempo lounging in a teacup.
So we
teacup
have
too.
Wobbin Williams in the chat room. They can finish typing their question so he can get the whole thing answered.
Yeah, he said that.
I actually have it right here. They asked, if duchies are able to manipulate objects in the real world with their energy, and if they manifest enough energy, they can become a temporarily real item or a real thing within the real world. Correct?
They can become.
Yes.
They can possess a horse.
Well, they can actually. So it's has been said that this might need to be reserved for duchies that are either really old or really powerful. They have a lot of magical energy, something, because it would take a significant amount of it, but it would be possible for them to physically manifest in the realm of Terra, to be seen as like a physical thing that you could see and touch and whatnot. But it would take so much tremendous energy to maintain that it's usually not something that could be run for very long. And there aren't any current canon rules or information that really describe the limitations of this, but it has been said to be known to be possible, yes.
Robin Williams in the chat said, the rest was, when we first took duchies, could that be considered a duchy coming to the physical world and manifesting enough energy? I think it's a theory.
As far as canon, I couldn't really say, because that needs to be something coming from D. But as far as the fan fiction, backstory, lore, idea for, I think it's adorable that would be as if the duchies were kind of interacting with our real world and they're kind of hiding among the furries or something. Like, totally cute. And
I love that.
You
I
could
love
totally
that
do that, yeah. And the answer being yes, you can have duchies that can form in the real world. We just don't know the limitations on how difficult that is. So, because it is possible, I say totally, yeah, go for it. You can totally describe or explain that is what's happening when you're in fursuit.
Imagine the confused duchy in the middle of the panel, where none of the other duchies that they think they're around can understand them.
Aw, poor baby. All right, how about another Kristen question?
This is the last
Alright.
one.
You
Last
can
one of
answer
Kristen.
Figured we'd do it, since they're still here. I guess I'll read it. Alright, so.
Sorry, I was fighting with my cat.
Oh, you're okay. So I swear that this will be the last question, lol. This question pertains to the Aether and its creatures. Since DADs were created by Paradise as a tool to help control the plane, does that mean DADs, after the war, can be used by creatures to control other lesser creatures? Since the new story element of DAD fighting rings was released, I wonder if other creatures use duchies for other purposes like that. Also, there's a stigma against DADs touched by the Abyss. Hey, I mentioned that! I assume the creatures that use DADs aren't fond of the ones that are unpredictable because of the Abyss's corruption. So if they see one with black coloration, do they have a slang for them? Oh god, we're getting some, real heavy stuff now. Also, there's some duchies that are used to create magic potions. I assume they would fetch a high price in the black market because you can cut off parts of a duchy to turn directly into pure magic. It's totally okay if this hasn't been talked about yet or is still a work in progress. I think it's fascinating how complex the relationships that duchies have with other creatures. Dang, Kristen, you do not disappoint.
I mean, I love it. I love the complexities of these questions.
Yeah, me too. But, whew. She's doing the big think.
She knows too much.
So, yeah, I did mention about how I personally thought it was a cool idea that there might be a stigma against DADs that were touched by the Abyss, because to me that makes sense, as drawing just parallels from, like, society. If somebody, you know, it's kind of, something's off about them, maybe mentally or physically, you just have a natural tendency to maybe want to avoid them. And as was mentioned earlier, maybe a duchy might decide to have black just because they want to be left alone, or they think it just looks cool. Something like that. But I would love to see an exploration more from D of the complexities of the relationships of their society and how other creatures and beings and whatnot really kind of interact with the species too. And that the more you go into this, and the more that D also releases about this, the more you can see Dutch Angel Dragon's canon story and lore is definitely not all sunshines and rainbows whatsoever. It's very dark, and like the telephone character itself is, you know, also a very disturbing, dark individual that has a bunch of shit happen to her, poor baby. But the telephone that you see at conventions, you know, as being a character performance is all happy, bouncy, fun, adorable, you know. That's not a representation of the real canon telephone. They're kind of almost in a way two different telephones if you kind of think about it. Just because, yeah, the one that she chooses to represent at the conventions, you know, she doesn't want to have a, you know, doesn't want to be a depressing touch. Because that doesn't make good for a first year performance. Not with those adorable face.
Also, I gotta say, I'm super hyped for her to make her, you know, the new telephone.
Oh, heck yeah. That's gonna be fantastic. New telephone.
Oh my god.
3.0.
Also, on that question, I have to say one thing, that duchies don't actually speak. So, like, it would probably, like, their slang for them would probably be some kind of disgruntled noise.
That's true, because duchies just sort of like mimic sounds that they like, including they can mimic human speech, but just like real world animals, they have their own level of communication, relying a lot on sights, sounds, body language, you know, things like that. Like canon, anyway.
Actual language.
Right, now, you can represent this, like in stories and things, as if they're speaking human tongue, but it's implied that they're not actually speaking real words. Again, it's a fan fiction, you could do what you want. You can make them do that, but for the canon, I don't know if D is going to be writing it from the perspective of, you know, trying to stick with very real-world animal kind of symbolism. It's a lot harder to write a story that way, if they speak without speaking, or if she was just going to make them speak in English.
I thought she was planning to do it from the main character that she's released.
Oh yeah, the girl, what's the heck's her name?
Did she release her name?
I swear that she did.
I don't know if she did.
I don't remember. I don't think she
I don't
did.
recall the name of the character, so maybe not.
I know she released artwork of the character, but I don't know if she actually released her name or not.
Yeah, so she released artwork. This was released at Anthrocon this past year, of the three main beings that are the rulers of the different realms, and the main character, I swear she totally has a name, I just gotta look it up, that is the main companion for Telephone and is the main character of the story as she's writing. And it's a young girl.
With Vertigo.
Yes.
She's gorgeous.
Oh yeah, I love the character design so much.
The artist name is, what is it, like Quail?
We suck. I don't know.
I don't know how it's said. I met the artist and I don't know how it's said. Starts with a Q.
Yeah. Anyhow, okay, so she may be Lyra. Her name's Lyra, guys.
That's it.
What?
The human character girl's name is Lyra, isn't it?
I believe That's it.
I'm almost like, I'm like
I
90%
don't know.
sure. I'm 90% sure.
Yeah. I don't
So
know.
if this character is being included, then I think that it's going to be mostly told from her point of view, and it's going to be she's the reason that you can understand what's going on in the story, because she's going to speak in English, and maybe just sort of her interpretation of, like, you don't actually get inside Telephone's head. You know, you don't hear her thoughts or anything like that. I don't know. We'll find out, I guess, when the book is released. But that sort of makes sense to me.
We'll know someday. Just not today.
Anyway,
Okay.
so there's a huge bunch of that to be explored. And I think that she might also give more information when she releases the domesticated Dutch stuff, because that would give you a heck of a lot of information and insight to how Dutchies are related to being used and interacted by other creatures of the realm. And yeah, not all people are treating Dutchies correctly. And I don't know about necessarily using magic potion stuff and the whole black market. Like, that's a really cool idea that there's this whole, like, underground problem or whatnot. Yeah, that's definitely something I think that will be revealed a lot more later, and we can't really say much more because we haven't really discussed it a lot with Dee before yet.
Okay, next question. Another one from Novona. Maybe a weird question, but how long have you all been moderators for the DAD species?
That's not a weird question.
That's not weird at all. I've been about a year-ish. Question
I
mark?
was added at the same time as Tempo.
I feel like it's been a year. It was before MFF of last year.
Yeah, we were officially announced at MFF of last year, so yes, it has been over a year. Because there's
But-
been an MFF since then.
But I've been a part of the Dutchy species for like 3 years. So
I've been part of the species for 5 years. I believe,
I'm looking
yeah,
up.
I was gonna say, Riley's probably going to have to check back.
No, it's Voodoo's been
few
around
of
longer
many
than
years.
me.
Oh no.
Well, admin-wise, I started getting involved around the 2013, I think.
Okay, so I'm looking at
Late
the timeline.
2012, early 2013.
You know,
And I was
open
added
this.
officially in 2014.
Yeah, you know, officially open the species to the public in 2014, so anyone can make one. That's when the Facebook group was founded. It was 2014.
Yeah, so I've been on there since 2014, and I've been within like the species officially since around then. I knew of them beforehand, like in 2012 and 2013, because I did have contact with the at that time. We weren't close at that time. We actually got closer over the years. But yeah, I think that officially outside of me and Torch are actually the oldest active admins left in the community right now.
Yeah, I'm looking at the timeline. That does line up because the original, I'm talking the old school, you know, telephone suit that Phoenix did before the current one. That trade was started in 2011. And then the new cute suit that everybody knows and loves, that was debuted February 2013, so really early on in 2013. But the species and the character telephone had existed, obviously before that. The very first suit was 2011.
Voodoo was
Yeah, 'cause
added
it
to
was
the
a
Dutch
gift.
page 6 years ago.
Woo!
Hi, I'm
So-
old.
Nah.
And then I
Nonsense.
I got
You were
added
also
to
6 years
the
ago?
Yeah, I got added to the admin team late 2014, like December, the very end, because I was asked to be on the team at MFF.
Tempo was added 4 years ago, and I was added 5 years ago.
Yeah, you guys have been involved in the community for quite a while, just not
been-
as, like, admins.
Gosh,
Yeah.
it's been 4 years. Where's the time gone?
You can actually see that information on the page.
Yeah, which is pretty cool.
I can also
And you can see who added
all.
you. Yeah.
I don't even know who added you, Riley. Who is Carrie King?
I don't know.
What? The mystery admin.
It wasn't admin. You can have other members invite you to the group.
Oh.
It says added by.
I don't know, honestly.
Then again, it might not have been where you had to be accepted back then.
Yeah, it used to be very, very different before we kind of closed down the group for a few months and restructured everything.
Back when I got added, I didn't even have to answer questions. Now there's questions.
Yeah, like back then you didn't have to like put in a request to like join the group or anything like that. I don't think it was just
Nope,
completely
just-
open.
I think it was a free for all.
To join.
There was no
We didn't even have like the approval.
No screening. Yeah, there's no screening process
either. Yeah, there was no screening. So like there was no wait time for posting things way back then either. And then as the years have gone and we shut down the group for that period of time, we revised everything and like went through and had to change things just because of needing to moderate things that were coming through back in that time, and it's still standing till today.
Yeah, the group originally was the quote-unquote telephone/Angel Dragon fan page. It was not official, and it was started by Remix. And then it became official.
Yeah, so Remix is the like official like maker of the official Dutch Angel Dragon community page, and since then she has stepped down, but still has the ability to hold, you know, the panels like we said before. But yeah, she would have been the oldest active, and then I think Torch is next, and then I'm the next one up after Torch. So Torch has been here longer than I have.
Yeah. All right. So I guess I answered that question.
Okay. We have one by Topaz. What each of you say is your favorite thing about the species?
Everything.
You have to have your favorite thing, though.
Literally.
You have to have a favorite thing. You have to have a favorite thing. You can't say everything.
I know, I'm thinking.
No. I guess that I would have to say, oh man, what is my favorite thing? There's like a bunch. I've always cited that the creativity, like the sense of like community and just like, it's a really unique group of people that have all kind of come around the species, but as a result of that has kind of created a really interesting niche little pocket inside of the furry fandom that's kind of unlike any other space in the furry fandom that I really appreciate.
Same. Like, just like, something I really love is the way the community supports each other, like, so much. Like, you'll see somebody, like, post, like, cheap art commissions. It's like, for example, for me, I had to take one of my birds to the vet. And I opened up, like, pay what you want art commissions. And, like, people, like, threw, you know, money at me kind of thing, like, more than I would have expected so that I could take my little bird to the vet.
Oh, that's so sweet.
That, you know, people, you know, have a need or are struggling and the community's there for them. That's something you don't see in the furry fandom as much as you do within the Dutchie community. It makes me love the community.
Yeah, like Dutchies care about other Dutchies. A lot of times a Dutchie will have majority of their friends will be other Dutchies. And that's kind of the way that they interact with the furry community as a whole, is more so within just the Dutch sphere. Because they're kind of like like-minded people that sort of like get each other, you know?
I think
it's kind of like its own little like network in its own right.
And it's because it's, you know, centered around a specific, unique, original creation species, and then it's so open for expression and creativity that it's more unified than, let's say, all of the wolves of the furry fandom.
It's also a very safe species, so like anyone of any age can really enjoy it.
yeah, that's definitely something I was discussing the other day with someone, was that it has a sort of like a safe aura to it, I suppose, more so than other corners of the furry fandom.
Like you can look up duchies on FA and like you
It's
don't
all like
get,
wholesome.
yeah, you get a lot of wholesome, just like cute things. Where
I
there's
think I
other
would
species
have
you
to.
can't.
Yeah, I think I'd have to say that's like my favorite thing about this species is like there's
The
such a
kind
wholesome
of
thing
people
to
you
it,
get.
and like the kind of people that you have around, and like honestly, I've come across it so many times, but like this species has saved people. Like there's
Yes.
been
Oh
so
yeah.
many instances of people coming up to me and telling me that they wanted to kill themselves at some point, and then they found this species and it helped pull them out of that dark place that they were in.
They
And
escaped the
to me
abyss.
that's just amazing that this made up species can do this for people. I actually have a customer that her son was the same way, and she really thought that he wouldn't have been here, but he ended up meeting telephone, and she really helped him through that. And then they got the suit for me, and like she said that it pulled him out, and he's been doing so much better, and he's been a lot happier. Like
Him trying it on
this
for the first time was
community,
the most wholesome
yeah,
thing
like
ever.
it was the most wholesome thing ever, and like it made me cry as soon as I was told that that kid wanted to end his life if it wasn't for this species, and getting that character in that suit and meeting telephone, meeting the admins, and meeting the community. It's a giant thing, and I think that has to be the biggest thing that I love about this species is like it has helped so many people, and like I know there's a ton that still haven't even told us how it has helped them, and like it's just great. It's an amazing thing.
That's incredible. That's
Yeah.
wow.
And it's also draws like a lot of, younger people into the fandom, and it's a great sort of gateway to them figuring out who they are, self-expression, things like that, and finding a sense
the
of
furry
community
gateway drug.
and friends. Yeah, furry gateway drug, that's what we are.
Oh no. Well, I was gonna say that my favorite thing about it is the creativity. Around the species itself, because I love how creative the entire species is, and how the anatomy and how it was put together. But I also love the creativity of the entire group and the entire community. You have this one species, and you have people that have created so many different variations and different designs for their duchies. You have duchies that have multiple limbs. You have duchies with multiple wings, multiple tails. You have duchies with that are based off of different franchises, but they all look different. You have a duchy that will be based off of Mercy from Overwatch, and you have another one over here that looks completely different from this one, even though it's still based off of the same duchy. And the creativity that this
Yes.
this group has, I guess, really centered towards this species is just incredible.
Yeah, the amount of variety that you have just within this one species is just like crazy. Like I said, we had like 1,000 characters that were registered on that database. That was like 4 years ago. I don't even know where it is at now. Like the amount of characters that's been created, yeah. And that they're all really unique and different somehow.
Also, like there's so many different like variants of creativity, from like artwork, fursuits, writing, animation. Like it is crazy and diverse and super awesome.
Yeah, like all these things totally exist like in the furry community at large, but it's just like it's so concentrated in this like small group of people.
And we all support each other.
Yeah. I think it's definitely unique. And the thing is, no other like original species has had this much, I would say, like attention or success in reaching people and bringing them together than any other part of the furry fandom has done. Like, it's crazy, the sheer numbers that we have.
I'm trying to think of other original species, and there's some really popular original species, but
They don't have the community like we do.
no, I don't think so.
There were other communities that like I've joined like their chats or various groups where it was like I felt like they didn't appreciate each other, and it made me sad.
It's more of a looser community.
Yeah, like they were very separate.
Yeah, I haven't personally been involved in any of the other original species kind of groups or whatever, but I mean, there's definitely, you can point to the top like 4 or 5 other popular species, but I remember like a big thing when we were realizing just how large the Facebook group is getting and how much demand there is from the community for more information, for more structured, meets and information to create characters with, and all this stuff, which is why we kind of shut things down and sort of rebuilt it with that in mind, was that there is no other template in which we can follow to figure out how to handle all of this, because it's never happened before in any, there's no template and of like how does Dee didn't know exactly what to do either, because suddenly this one little creative idea that she had and she made this cute character for has grown into this monstrous thing, and nothing else you can point to that's had a similar success or effect. We just kind of like had to make up stuff as we went along and hoped that it works for the community. Something worked though, because we're still here and we still have a very strong community of people that relate to one another on a different kind of level than other groups have.
Also, I really appreciate how much our community like love us as people who are the leaders in like making sure that things go well. Like I've seen in some communities where like people like the admin will pop up and like they just hate them for no reason. And I really
Admins
appreciate
can be
how much
very
our community
intimidating.
loves us.
Yeah,
I just appreciate how much our community loves us.
Yeah, they actually, they care about the species creator and they care about the people that are helping to provide them with a community platform and making sure that things go smooth and whatnot. Like it's for the most part a thankless job, and we do get a good amount of being thanked, and that is really awesome for the community to recognize. Because we're not in this for being cool or special or popular. We're here because we want to help, and to be thanked for that help is just the best you can ask for.
And I'm not saying we don't get any hate, because some people
Oh
get
God,
mad
we do.
sometimes.
Oh yes, we do.
Real mad, but like as a general, like people don't just like go out of their way to be mean to me, and I've seen that happen in other species. Like where like somebody who is like an admin or a moderator will make a post, and it seems like people go out of their way to be really mean to them, like on their own page.
That sucks.
That's
And it makes me really upset for them.
That's not what the community is about. I mean, even just like the furry community at large. But yeah, it's just like, no, guys, if you're doing that, you're kind of into this for the wrong reason.
Be nicer to each other.
Yeah, like I appreciate how nice we are to each other.
Yeah, I just wish that people didn't feel so like intimidated by us too. It's because it's hard for some people to approach, an admin if they need help or they have questions or something. But it's like, we're just people too. We're just like them. We just happen to get given a little bit more responsibility. Other than that, we're just as much like fans of the species and the community as everyone else is.
We all fangirl just the same when Dee tells us stuff.
Oh yeah.
We're just the same as you, except we're way more stressed out.
I have to
And
stress
sometimes
too
you have to
that
tell people
we
no.
don't get special treatment either. If we mess up, like we do get in trouble.
We do.
We do.
Yeah. We're held accountable for things.
Very much. That exactly goes with, we're just like you guys. If we do something wrong, we do get in trouble.
Yeah, we're...
I'm glad for that. I'm glad. I know there's some groups out there where people, their admins do something wrong and nothing ever happens. But in this case, if we do something wrong, and if we say something stupid or handle something wrong, we do get talked to. We do get people saying, "Hey, we should do this differently," or that wasn't the correct way to handle this, or et cetera, et cetera. But it's good that we handle ourselves.
Yeah, it's gotten better because there's been, definitely instances over the years with various people that have been on the admin team where things didn't go very smoothly. But a lot of it was because it was very volunteer run, and we didn't have a vetting process and selection people to really help. It wasn't, it was not the same kind of culture and environment that it is now. And I think over the years we've just kind of gotten better at figuring out how to handle everything. We do our best. That's really all it is. We're just trying to do our best.
We're still all volunteers and all. And
we
any of
are.
us could leave at any point.
Yeah, we're not obligated to be here, but we want to be here.
We get paid in adorableness.
Where we don't want to be here, we don't have to be. We choose to be.
Yeah, but we have very high expectations for those who do choose that.
Okay.
We try to make a really good community. We really do. So thank you guys for everybody who, participates in it and appreciates this kind of really unique little corner of the world that we've kind of created. Because we're right here with you, and we're here for you.
Did we answer all the questions?
We have one question left.
Oh, snap.
We have one question left by Wolf and Fluffy. They ask, are duchies able to communicate body language, spiritual presence, telepathy, or verbally with real-world animals? And what happens when a duchy possesses a horse's body?
I don't think there's a lot of, canon explanation for this, but we kind of just have the general assumption, even if it's not really that based, that all other real-world animals, have a secret language and they can communicate with other animals, and humans just suck. So I would imagine it's very much the same way for duchies, because they communicate the same way that animals do, things like, a body language and such, that you can reasonably assume that they can communicate in some form with real-world animals, and I just don't know what the limitations of that is. For your fan fiction story backstory needs, whatever you want. And we're not very clear exactly what all, the rules and things that happens when a duchy possesses a horse's body, other than we know that it is possible that they can effectively live out a life cycle as a real-world horse if they choose. I don't know if this is going to be kept or changed based on, because this was an extraordinarily old part of the lore before we had things like different realms being even named at this point, because of the duchy's species being inspired by horses and honoring Dutch the horse. D wanted to have a horse-like element, and this is kind of a way to have a physical interaction with a Dutch Angel Dragon, because it's kind of a personal, meaningful thing to D herself. And I don't know if that's going to be something that she keeps for the official lore or not. Or if she's going to go into more detail explaining how that kind of works. Because the species has developed so much further beyond that sense. There's a lot of, I think, some older, outdated information that's on the website that I'm going to have to review with her and go through and clean up, because I haven't updated the website in maybe a couple of years. Hasn't had any big overhauls, and I'd really like to go back and do that, because so much more information has since been released, and I need to clear up everything, but it's a lot to go through. And we all need to have time in order to sit down and do that, and that hasn't really happened yet.
Okay, well, I think that was it. I think that was the last question.
Yeah, that's all the questions that we
Yay!
got.
We asked a lot.
Yeah.
Got a lot from us this time.
Yeah, I missed dinner because of you guys. Nah, it's fine.
No, now you gotta starve.
I know. Rip
Oh
me.
no.
I've been
Hungry
sitting
dragon.
and munching on things.
I need to go get a snack.
I already had dinner.
Snacks all the way.
Snack time.
Snack,
Um,
snack.
Well, I think that was it then. Do we have anything else
Yeah.
to talk about, or?
I think we have to end this somehow, sometime. So might as well do it now.
End it with a song and dance, only not.
Boop, boop.
Food is good.
Food is the best.
Yeah.
Food is always a good thing.
When you said that, Voodoo, it kind of sounded like you were just saying you were the best. Food
Well, you
is
are the
versus
best,
voodoo.
too. Everyone's the best. Food is the best, though.
Oh, well, fine.
Okay,
I'm
well,
one snack away from being someone's best friend.
Oh my gosh. Baji is doing fan art of this stream.
Oh no.
oh no.
Top tier
Oh.
excitement. Can't wait.
Oh no.
Thank you guys so much for joining us live as we answer a bunch of questions that we can't really answer very well. I'm sorry, we tried.
We tried. We did our best.
Hopefully a future session we can actually have D in here with us, because it helps when you have the creator of the species answering questions, and if she says I can't tell you, then that's the end of the story. Like, we're done. Okay, moving on. Like, it's a lot easier to have this kind of a question answer format when, you know, we can answer real questions. Like,
Hang up the
give
phone,
real
no
answers.
more.
But
Whereas-
it is fun to speculate. Definitely.
Whereas when we have those questions that we can't answer, it's like, well, do we know? Can we? We have to rack our brains to see if this is something that we can actually answer.
Yeah. But hopefully you guys learned some things. Hopefully you got some more ideas for maybe what you want to apply to your own characters or stories. And I hope that you can appreciate, again, this amazing community that we have. And yeah. Stay awesome.
Also, I hope that maybe this stream helped you guys to get to know us a little bit better and maybe get a little bit more comfortable with us.
Yeah.
Yes.
We try not to be like these big, scary, you know, official authorities or something.
Chirps aggressively with knife.
Oh.
Who let you have that knife in the first
Definitely.
place?
Start doing these a little bit more often. Like, it's
I
nice
think
to be able
so.
to just interact with the community.
Yeah, I really don't interact a lot with the community these days, and sometimes I really miss it, I think. Sometimes it's
Same,
stressful,
I
but
think
a lot of times it's
I
good.
do. Just like D, it's nonstop work for me for Suits.
I posted some knife emojis
see
into the
that.
chat.
Who let you have the knives? Who left Sniper's knives out?
Yeah. Sniper is the one you have to watch out for when it comes to knives.
All right. Well, I gotta go. I'm gonna go eat stuff. So, stay frosty, folks.
Yeah.
Oh,
I think that that will conclude our stream for the day. I gotta go let my dogs out.
Time to go back to real
bye
life.
bye. Have a nice time.
Good night,
Yeah,
everybody.
real life. Good night.
Good night,
Bye,
everyone.
Mommy.
Thanks for joining us.
Are we still live?
Shh, I'm trying to figure out how to stop it. The tab went away.